Hey, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of talking long enough until people like you or until they respect you, and what are your thoughts about topics. I guess the main point of this video is to speak about that if you talk long enough in a way that expresses your ideas, in a way that other people can understand them, then people will start to understand who you are, what you're about, and what kind of things they can get from you in terms of benefiting your life. Eventually, you can grow a platform like most people do nowadays and leverage who you are, your personality, and the things that you want to talk about. And you can grow an audience, grow a following that cares about you, cares about the things that you have to say because you've won them over by the amount you've already spoken to them. Whether it's through your videos about specific topics, whether it's through an old video that you had, you've already won over that person, so they become part of the group of people that respect you and want to hear from you on a regular basis. I think the most important aspect of this is no matter what kind of mistakes you make in life and your journey, your YouTube journey or whatever it is to always be authentic to yourself. Like nowadays we see a lot of YouTubers will just, you know, give feedback to other YouTubers, piggyback off of trends and what other people have said, review YouTubers who like to pick fights with each other. I think overall, it's important what they say because they have a subject to go off of. But in terms of being who you are and being your most authentic self, I think this is what will keep your audience coming back for more. So, what does it take to speak long enough for people to want to hear more from you, to care enough about you, to go and look through your other videos, go and look through your past videos of you, at an earlier stage where you might be embarrassed about the things that you talked about, but they understand that you've evolved into this new person over the span of videos that you've been creating. I think we're always wrapped up in the idea of saying the right thing. What is the right thing that I can say to reach the most people? What is the right thing that I can say to, make a majority of my audience be positive about the subject matter in my videos? And I think saying the right thing is a totally subjective idea in terms of where you're at in your life, how you're feeling that day. Like, I'm not feeling too good today, but I still decided to talk about my life with you and the ideas that I'm sharing. And it's subjective to what the audience wants to hear at a certain time. Because while I'm changing as a person, I'm sure a lot of the people that would listen to me are changing too. Because every day we're going through different problems, different obstacles in life, and whether we can meet those obstacles or not is what matters. So, some ideas that I've come up with in no particular order would be to be relevant, be relevant to what your larger message is with your videos, with your channel, what you want to share, not giving too much away, referencing, a lot of YouTubers spend time referencing literature, referencing research studies. This could be a part of what you want to suggest to your audience. Storytelling. A lot of YouTubers will use stories to enact their larger ideas, to create a scenario, to create characters. And who doesn't love a good story? Because we learn so much from a story, especially if it's being told by somebody that we respect or admire. The subject matter, which I've mentioned, and your audience really getting a feeling for the person that you are just through your mannerisms or the way you talk, or you know how you usually present yourself, not just to the people you know but also the people you aren't familiar with, which could be different for people depending on some social aspects in their life. So, what are the things that you're usually going through my mind when I'm having a conversation with somebody? When I'm just sitting down and it's just me and another person, and maybe I'm meeting them for the first time, or maybe there's somebody I've known for quite some time. What are just the things that are going through my head when we're having this conversation? The first thing I find myself thinking about is pauses. How much do I pause in the conversation? How long do I wait for my response? Because that's what I can really control. If the other person pauses, that's totally fine. But I'm in control of when I can pause, reflect, and think about a response that might steer the conversation in a different direction, depending on where do I want to take this conversation, what do I want to bring up. I think pauses are extremely helpful and extremely efficient in finding room to maneuver the conversation in the way that you want to. The next thing I would think about is the tone of my voice. What is the tone that I want to set for my conversation with this person, which will reflect on my overall relationship with this person? My tone in the conversation shows the other person what kind of emotion that I want to add to this conversation. Do I want to make it more serious? Do I want to ineffectually make it a little more comedic, or banter a little bit? Tone has to do with how much inflection and what is the overall change in pitch in your voice while you're speaking. And though we don't think about it so much, it has such an impact on how we come across, and much of it is subconscious. So let's take, for example, if I'm talking to you right now and I'm speaking with this kind of tone. I'm trying to be more, didactic. I'm trying to lead you in some direction with my voice. But let's say I'm talking more lightly and I just want to make a joke or call attention to something I found funny. My tone is completely different. And this matters a lot in your conversations daily, which you should start to think about. The next thing would have to be eye contact. And we all know eye contact is important. We all know the eyes are the window into the soul. So, why is eye contact and sharing eye contact so important? It's because it gives the person a focal point, it gives the person a place to concentrate while they're listening to your talking. And your eyes are everything. Your eyes are who you are. People can judge a lot just by looking at somebody's eyes. That's why in criminal photos they cover their eyes, because they don't want you to recognize that person, because we're so recognizable just from our eyes. So giving that person your eye contact, giving that person your full attention, and receiving their full attention at the same time allows you to be the focal point of that moment when you're talking to that person. You want to be the only thing on their mind in that moment when you're talking. And the last thing I like to think about is questions. Questions are so meaningful because we get meaning from questions when we ask them, when we receive them, when we think about them, what we can learn from them. Questions are so elastic, they are so conducive to the points that we want to bring up. If I ask this question, I'll direct the conversation into one way. If I ask a different question, I can direct the conversation into a different way. If I ask a question, I can subvert an answer. If I ask another question, I can force the other person to consider something more deeply than maybe they missed before. Questions work so skillfully in not only bringing up and extracting information from somebody, but simply arranging and directing where you want the conversation to go. And I think this is so important to showing the person how you are and how you interact and making them like you over time. So I made a couple of points about how we can talk and how we can talk enough for people to start to like us, to become familiar with us, and observe our points more closely, and how to start gaining an audience eventually if you are able to talk to enough people in an authentic way and share that experience with others. So if you like this video, I hope that you'll give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel, or just consider checking out some of my other videos and maybe you could learn something else from there. So I'll see you in the next one.